Thank you for joining me today. This is Leena Mayo with GoHBU.us, and I am here, of course, with the awesome and brilliant Bill Bronchick from LegalWiz.com.
Thank
And
you.
we're going to take a few minutes to go over our hot topics and trends. So, Bill, say hello to the people.
Hello to the people.
So we won't take a lot of time. We got about 5, 6, maybe 7 slides here, and we want to talk a little bit about what's new and how you can take advantage of that information. All right, let's hit it, Bill. One more. So today we want to talk about a little bit for a few minutes about market changes. And of course, everybody's tired of hearing about inventory and prices, but it is important for decision making. So we'll touch on that quickly and then end with some recommendations. So this slide is from the National Association of Realtors. They have an army of research folks who are diligently looking at how things are changing in our market. And I don't know about you, Bill, but I've heard a lot of chatter about, oh, is it going to be a crash? What's going to happen? Is it a good time to buy? The pandemic seems to be loosening up, restrictions, I may want to re-enter the market. So I'm sure you've heard a lot about, will the market crash? Is that something that you've heard too?
Well, yeah, but the market, when they say the market, there is no real market. The market in real estate is just a compilation of local markets. So what is going on in Miami may not be the same thing that's going on in San Francisco. But there are certain factors nationwide that affect everybody, and those are tax policy and interest rates. Those will affect what people do in terms of their actions with regard to real estate nationwide.
Absolutely. And what I have seen on my side of the table is there are indicators. There's a lot of inventory problems and there's a lot of buyers. And we've been, anticipating the data that will tell us how we have weathered this pandemic. And this particular slide talks to us a little bit about what's happening. Are people really flooding towards foreclosure? What is the percentage of people who will be in, that kind of a challenging position? And so we can see from this slide, and I won't go through every detail of it, but you can see that there are a lot of people who are weathering this storm. 27% have, deferral or partial claims. A majority of people have been paying their mortgages. They've been taking advantages of the forbearances, and they've been restructuring their loans. Very creative, very ambitious, and honest and good people in America. And many people are downsizing as well. So there is a portion of our population that are challenged and are going through some, downsizing and sales to, manage this particular challenging economy. There are many more who are taking advantage of it. They're buying, they're refinancing at these lower interest rates. And they're doing just fine, surprisingly enough. And because we have such a challenge in our inventory and so many more buyers entering the market, I don't see a huge, crash coming, if you will. And according to Lawrence Yoon from the National Association of Realtors, whose job it is primarily to watch this market very closely with his team of researchers, he agrees. No crash is coming in the next 24 months. He sees growth, and that's what we see here as well. So let's look at one more slide.
Okay.
So what do we know about our buyers? Well, we have 28 million people, according to a Zillow survey and some other data, approximately 28 million Americans who say, hey, look, I want to buy a home. I'm in a position to do that, and I'm saving my money. I'm doing what I can to investigate where I want to live. If I'm going to be remote, have more options, of course, but I'm definitely going to be buying. And so people are optimistic, and that's good. We like that. 26 million of those folks in that survey said, I'm a first-time buyer, but I'm not sure when I want to buy. I'm sure it's going to be sometime between now and the next 5 years, right? They're saving their money, they're getting their credit in order. And as we know, because we have more buyers than we have property, the lenders can be choosy. they can have higher restrictions. They want people with good credit, good employment history, and healthy down payments.
Right.
And I'm not surprised. What do you think about that, Bill?
And that's the difference between now and 2008. 2008 is not something that we'll see a repeat of, because it was shoddy lending practices mostly that caused the crash of 2008, plus just an oversupply of houses that were built. We don't have either of those in play right now. We've got low inventory in most markets, and that's not nearly where it is normal, sometimes as little as 20, even less, 20% of normal market. So supply and demand, there's more demand than there is supply. It's going to force housing prices upwards. Now, what will affect supply? Well, if builders go crazy building, I still think it's going to take many years for them to catch up. Or let's say a tax policy, as I said earlier, let's say Congress decides that effective 2022, you can't exclude from your capital gain the taxes on a primary residence, which now it's 500,000 if you're married, 250 if you're not. Well, that's going to force a bunch of people to sell their house in 2021 who were sitting on the sidelines thinking about it, because they want to get in on that tax benefit. And that could cause a flood in the market of inventory. In terms of demand, the big thing there is plenty of demand, but if interest rates spike substantially, and I mean 7%, 8%, it's really going to put a lot of buyers in a position that they can't afford a payment that high. So that's going to bring down demand. So those are the two sort of X factors that might change the market. But overall, I think at least in the next 2 years, I do agree with Yun, although I don't think I've ever seen him say that we were headed for a bad market ever. But he's right on the money with the stats. And the stats show that we're at micro supply and we're at normal or greater demand. So as things stay the way they are in terms of interest rates and tax policy for the next couple of years, I think we're going to see another, banner year for 2021, 2022 in terms of prices.
Yeah, I mean, and the temptation is to think, because we're talking about buyers here, that that's the only population we care about, and we don't. We want to really speak to landlords, investors, of course, and both of those populations are important to us, and they're needed. We have a lot of people looking to rent property in very populated communities. And we also have people who are looking to buy and invest. And both of those populations are very important for our economy. So we want them to thrive for sure.
And again, if Congress has been toying with the idea of changing the capital gains rate from 20 to 43% on the high side, that's going to cause a flood in the market of landlords who say, okay, I've been thinking about selling. I better do it now before I get taxed at double the rate or more. But I don't know if there's enough landlords in that category to really affect the overall supply.
Yeah.
It's not like 90+% of people who buy houses are owner occupants. There's only a small supply of landlord buyers.
Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of people who are very interested in Airbnb and investment properties. And of course, because I do co-buying, we have people who are looking to, pool their money together and develop some kind of real estate portfolio for their secondary income streams as well. So there's a variety of different groups that are affected by how our economy is moving when it comes to taxes and regulations in our various markets. So yeah, let's, the next couple of slides, we're going to talk a little bit in more detail about some of these changes. So here's just a quick down, and dirty couple of slides here, if you will. And these are slides that were shared from two sources. This particular slide was some data from the monthly National Association of Realtors data. And really, this is a good opportunity for us to get a snapshot of what is happening, how many homes are being sold, how does that compare with last year, which of course is a very odd time anyway. But as we can see from left to right, we have existing home sales that obviously are increased year over year by 12%. People were still buying last year, carefully with, distance, conversation, mask, gloves, and some of them even just remote. But we have a pretty good year over year growth here. So people are not hesitant. They need to live somewhere. They want to take advantage of the lower interest rates. And they're making those moves. The second slide, going to the right here, is home prices. We've had a 17% increase year over year for home prices. And that's the median home sales prices year over year. So we know that if you're making an investment into a smart community where we have employment, where we have growth, where we have the opportunity to appreciate that property to appreciate, then we know it's going to make a difference. And so it's not a time to be afraid. We have very good rates. If you've saved, you've been smart, you have good credit, you want to make this move, my advice would be to do it smartly, but to definitely not wait.
Right.
We've already seen an increase in interest rates. We've seen a flood in market when it comes to inventory and competitive, bidding for property. If you're looking to make a move, now's the time to do it. Don't wait. These prices are continuing to rise. And because of what Bill just said, which is our inventory imbalance, it's going to continue on that path for some time. So don't hesitate. If this is your path, to make provisions, plan properly, look and do your research, and then make a move, because 17% increase in prices is nothing to ignore, and it's definitely something to take note of.
Right.
Pending home sales.
A lot of people who are sitting on sidelines thinking, well, I'm going to wait for the market to crash, and they think it's going to crash, because of the foreclosure market or whatever other reason, other factors. You got to factor in interest rates, because I think the odds of interest rates spiking are higher than the odds of the market crashing. And if you buy a house now, let's say for 400,000, and you finance it at 3% interest, and in 2 years, let's say something does happen, it goes down to 280 before it goes back up again, which it eventually will. And interest rates are 4.5. Is it really worth the 20 grand savings in price for over 30 years of 1.5 in interest?
That's very true. And, people are always, I have heard this conversation probably more times than I can remember. Is it better for me to invest in the stock market? Should I buy cryptocurrency, or should I buy, real estate property? And the question I have for them is, what's your goal? Right? What is your goal? I mean, everyone has a different combination of what's good for them when it comes to their financial portfolio. But what I say is, you have a bit more control over real estate than you do over the stock market and cryptocurrency. Absolutely. It is one of those investments where you can make a lot of decisions about what to do, and you're not at the mercy as much as you would be, with cryptocurrency and with the stocks. How do you answer that question, Bill, when people ask you about that?
Well, goals, I think, are important that you mentioned. Also, diversification is important. I wouldn't say dump all your money in real estate. You want to diversify, get into multiple classes. The thing I like about real estate, though, is you can always find a bargain, because there's always someone who's in trouble financially, in a divorce, lost a job, death in the family, and you can negotiate a price that is below its current market value. You can't do that in the stock market. You can't knock on someone's door and say, hey, I heard you're in divorce. Can you sell me your Google stock cheap?
That's right. No,
it's
probably
a very precise, efficient market, the stock market, whereas real estate is not.
That's true.
There's many other factors that allow you to not only get a bargain, but after you buy it, fix it up and improve the value. Whereas if you buy Google stock, there's nothing you can do personally to make that stock go up.
That's very true. And when it comes to the sharing economy and co-buying, there are conversations that I've had with people. I've had conversations where they've said, I really want to make this investment with my sister, my brother, my friend, my college roommate. And, I want to buy in a market that's very expensive. And I'm not sure if I should buy in this market or that market, right? Market A or B. And the one thing that I encourage them to do is to, look at least 10 different factors that I have. Is that market growing? Is it where you really want to live? I mean, do what you want, try to find a way to get what you want, of course. But look at those areas where you feel like your investment's going to grow. That's like, investing 101. And when I look at this slide right here, I see, the existing homes, prices, pending home sales, and it's very difficult to find a reason not to take advantage of this time. Timing is everything. And, before you know it, will be next year, this time looking year over year. And I anticipate that we'll be seeing a lot of growth and some continued inventory strains. What do you think, Bill?
I agree. I think in the short term, the next 2 to 3 years, inventory is still going to be weak, low, and demand will outstrip supply. So, will it go up 17% again? I don't know about that.
Right.
It's possible, but I don't see a scenario in the short term where inventory or supply outstrips demand, where people just
Yeah.
we're not going to buy houses anymore. And again, that would be a scenario like interest rates spiking and maybe lenders saying, okay, from now on, you have to put 50% down.
Yeah.
And I just don't see those as likely scenarios.
Right. And I mean, seriously, there is in a very healthy environment, 4+ months of inventory. We're working on 2 right now.
Right.
So it's less than half of what we really need. And so even if we were building like gangbusters, we wouldn't be able to meet this demand. It's just not happening. And so now is the time to begin that conversation if you're going to buy,
And
and to buy smartly.
most people prefer buying existing homes rather than new homes because new homes don't come with hooks on the bathroom for your road. I mean,
That's true. That's very true. That's very true. That's very true. And there's always when I see the stats for existing home sales and new home sales, existing, of course, is always going to far outpace the new.
yeah. And the point I'm making is that even if you buy the home of your dreams as a new home, you're going to spend a ton of money with just window coverings and door hangers and hooks and
Right.
finishing your basement, and there's just a lot of money that has to be sunk into one of those.
Everything's extra, Bill. All right. So our next slide is really not something that we'll spend a lot of time on, but it does support what we just talked about, right? So inventory. When we look at the first slide on the left, and again, left to right, we are definitely seeing evidence of what we just discussed, right? So we have a year-over-year change in inventory, which is a decrease of 28%. That's tough. That's making it even harder.
Right.
Yeah, and then and that's year over year. Again, this is National Association of Realtor data, so it's very trustworthy. And then the next slide we see is our inventory, and it's unsold inventory monthly movement. So, people used to be able to, put their house on the market and they could comfortably consider that it would be a little bit of time before it was sold. Not anymore. You're seeing people put their inventory out there, and it's definitely going. People are buying. So we have a monthly change. So again, our year over year is up 3%. And that's our 3.3 month supply that I was talking about. But we have March 2021 has a 2.1 month supply. So again, in a healthy environment, 4 to 5 months is good. In
Right.
this environment, that's less than half. So it's a very tight market when it comes to looking for your
for people
next
who
place.
understand the numbers there, months of supply is the number of months it would take to liquidate everything in a market, like a city or to find geography, if nothing else came for sale. So if nothing else came for sale, it would take 2.1 months, which is very, very limited supply. Like you said, 4, 5, 6 months is a more balanced market where you would have 6 months of worth of supply, and 2.1 is really low.
Yeah, again, it should be 4 instead of 2. So we're talking about half of what is considered healthy.
Yeah.
And then home prices. So again, we were talking about that 17% increase year over year. And here's, an example of the median home sales prices. So 280 to 329. And we're not talking about, top of the line luxury living. We're talking about your basic, single family home. And that's a pretty big jump. And for people who are making less than 60K a year after taxes and expenses, that's still a pretty big investment for them. So it's a challenging market from both inventory and price perspective. All right, so here we go. So what I want to do before I say goodbye is I want to ask you, Bill, a couple of questions just for the audience sake. So here we are, and we're in this tight environment when it comes to inventory. We're absolutely challenged when it comes to finding a way to go about creating this buy so that it's an advantage for us from a tax perspective and from the down payment. And even if we're an investor, what are those 1, 2, and 3 things that you really want people to take away and then maybe come to your site to learn more about so that they can make the most of this challenging tight market?
Right. Well, first, when you buy, it should not be an emotional decision. It's a mathematical decision. Now, when you're buying your own house, of course, if you like the kitchen, you like the way it lays out, you like the living room, you're going to be persuaded by those things. But still, you want to inject the numbers. Is it location right? Is the school district right? What are the taxes? What is the likelihood it's going to go up in value? And if the market goes bad, how much will that affect your particular neighborhood? So don't be so emotional about it. Be more left-brained, analytical about it. Number 2, interest rates are really, really low, and they have nowhere to go but up. So if you're thinking about getting in, you're on the fence, it's hard to go wrong on a long-term investment at a low interest rate. It comes to the point where, they say a loan is debt. It's a liability. But if you have a 3% loan and interest rates in the market go up to 7, it's an asset. It's not a liability anymore,
Right.
because you're financed so low. And then finally, just make sure you engage the help of professionals, like in the mortgage business, whether it be realtors or people like myself and Leena Mayo, who can help you work through the logistics, because there's a lot of what you don't know that you don't know. And I discovered that once when I changed the oil in my car once. And it took me 3 hours, and I said, you know what, that was an experience, but I'm never doing that again, because it's easier to go to the pros.
That's right. Well, and I would just add before I close here that there are a lot of options. And so I don't think people should be discouraged if they have some credit challenges that they're working through to fix. Great, take care of that. Most certainly do diligence there. And if you're looking for property and you're tired of paying rent and you want to do that with a partner or a family member or some other group, please, by all means, contact me and let me help you with your options for how to do that co-buy. But definitely don't wait to do what you really want to do. There's help out there, and there's people like us who are willing to talk to you and to give you our advice and guide you in the right direction. So for our hot topics for May 21, it's me saying thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you next month. Have a good day.